All right. So Cairo Gold interview here today, and yeah, it is a good day. Like I said, the Phillies are in first place. We're going to be talking about chiropractic philosophy. Life is good. So again, thank you. Good afternoon to you. It's good morning here, but good afternoon, Dr. Joe, and thank you for joining us. And today we're going to continue on our journey here of just getting a better understanding of these chiropractic principles and having just a better knowledge of this. And so we're going to pick up on principle 23, left off last week on principle 22, or last time. And I'll just read the principle here, and then I got a question for you, and then we'll get your response to this question. So principle 23 is the function of innate intelligence. And in his little description here, he says, the function of innate intelligence is to create adaptive forces to be used in and for the body. So my question is simply this. Right there, it says the function of innate intelligence is to create. So if it's creating something, that means it has to get this, what it's creating has to come from somewhere. We can't create something from nothing. So my question to you is, where does innate intelligence get this stuff to create adaptive forces to be used in the body? Where's that coming from?
All right. If we can use an analogy, when we've talked about people who've created masterpieces of art, and particularly I watched a movie recently. I forget the name of the movie, but it was the sculptor, and I think I think I get my movies mixed up.
Yeah.
And now I don't know whether it was The Agony and the Ecstasy. I think that's what the movie was. Do you remember that one? But I think Charlton Heston, I think, played one of the characters in the movie, and he was creating the Sistine Chapel. I guess he was painting the Sistine Chapel, and what he did was he just took already existent paints and painted this beautiful painting, and so he created the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, so to speak, but he didn't really create it from nothing. And I think we do have different words for create. I think in the Hebrew, it's one word is bara, means to create from nothing, and to the painting on the Sistine Chapel was not created from nothing. It was created by taking already existent materials and investing them with new character, and so that it didn't just look like a glob of paint on a mural. It was a new character, and you say, yeah, that's whatever the Sistine Chapel was, and it was investing it with a new character. In other words, people could look at it and say, this is a different character. I think Reggie talks about the fact that when you take a painting, if an ant looked at a painting, he reviewed a painting, he'd say, "Oh, this is just a blob of black paint or brown paint or yellow paint or red paint." And if he was only looking at it from that standpoint, but he'd have to move away from it and look at it from a different viewpoint and say, well, okay, that's obviously the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Right. And I think that so that's the difference between the create that we do when you create something out of nothing, which is what God did when God created the heaven and the earth. and then he took created something from nothing,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the true meaning of create. But when we talk about creation from something, uh, God took the dust of the earth, and
Mm-hmm.
created man from that,
Right.
and then he took part of man and created a woman,
Mm-hmm.
according to the biblical account
Mm-hmm.
of creation. And
Right.
so that's when you create something out of nothing and invest it with new character. And the new character that was made out of Adam's rib, so to speak, was from the biblical account, was something with a new character. It was a new character,
Mm-hmm.
and God's made a woman out of a part
Right.
of a man. So that's the Judeo-Christian concept that we have, and that we accept as far as chiropractic is concerned, um, from that account, and that's what was the account that was acceptable during the time when chiropractic began. So it was investing with new character,
Right.
and of course today we have an argument over what the difference of the character is. There's certain synonymous facts or things that are the same with the character of a man and a woman, but and the same at the same token, there are things that are different in the character of a man and a woman,
Yes.
and both of them are made from something that is different, and
Exactly.
they're different in certain ways. And of course, we have some arguments in today as to far as whether men and women are different.
Yeah.
Uh, I take the position that they're different. They're plenty different in different ways.
Seems kind
Uh,
of obvious, but yes. To
Pardon
some
me?
people, it seems kind of obvious that we are different, but to some people, they don't quite see it that way.
Yeah, there's certain similarities with them, and they
Sure,
do
of
have
course.
different personalities. Uh, my wife has different personality than I do, and she looks different than I do,
Yeah.
um,
Sure.
and, and
Thankfully.
and and we're thankful for that.
Yes, thankfully.
So,
Now,
but there
so
are
then what is
certain. Go ahead.
so what is it then that innate intelligence is investing with new character to create
Um,
these adaptive forces? Are we saying it's universal
it,
intelligence? Is that what we're seeing? It's investing new characteristics into universal intelligence to create these adaptive forces?
well, creating new character in universal matter, or matter
Oh, yes. Okay.
that's not living, and the character that it has, of course, is now that it has a living ability, and that's the difference between universal matter and innate matter.
Right.
Universal matter is not living, innate matter is living. That's the distinction that we make, and there are certain characteristics with universal matter. uh, it's interesting that that we have to have universal matter that becomes adapted in order to be innate matter, and that we can't utilize uh, innate matter unless it's first made into universal matter. So innate matter has to lose its ability to uh, to carry on the signs of life
Hmm.
first before it can be made into innate matter. That means that that carrot that you eat has to that's pulled out of the ground. It has to be dead matter before it can be utilized or can be created and invested with new character to make it into living, walking, talking flesh and blood.
Right.
Uh, and when the rabbit eats that carrot, the carrot the carrot is no longer alive, and then the rabbit then adapts or utilizes that living
Mhm.
carrot. When it's still in the ground, it's still living, but when the rabbit begins to eat it and assimilate it, it has to first die and become universal matter before it can be invested with new character and become now the material, the living tissue of a rabbit, and or a human being. When we
Right.
eat, the same thing is true.
Right.
So there is no additional universal in there's no additional innate intelligence. Innate intelligence doesn't increase in amount, so to speak. It just is invested with new character. And some people would say, well, when we look at matter from the matter standpoint, um, or we can say that there is difference between universal matter and innate matter. But when we look at matter from the intelligence standpoint, we say that, well, there is intelligence,
Mhm.
and so some people have a difficult time making a differentiation between universal matter and universal and innate matter. Innate matter is just matter that is invested with new character and a different character, just like the paint that Michelangelo used to paint
Gotcha.
the Sistine Chapel ceiling was invested with new character, and it wasn't just blobs of paint on a uh, on an easel. It
Right.
became new character and had the vibrance and the character of a portrait, a living picture. The same with any picture.
So
It's
the
just
so then the forces that are being created, the adaptive forces that are being created to be used in the body come from universal matter, not universal intelligence. That's the difference there. Is that right?
yeah, they come from universal matter, right?
Okay, got it. Perfect. And so again,
And
we get this whole principle is just reinforcing. Principle 23 is reinforcing the fact that innate intelligence, this whole idea is it's a principle of organization. It's taking something and it's organizing it so that it can be used in the body, and then it's adapting those forces or those adapting those forces to be again used to keep our body in active organization.
yes,
Yeah.
and it's the differentiation is between innate matter and universal matter is the the intelligence,
Right.
and
Right.
that's how we differentiate it
Mm-hmm.
in chiropractic. You don't get you don't have you have 100% innate intelligence, uh, and or you have 0% innate intelligence, and it's then universal intelligence. Uh, it- that's the only differentiation. You can't have 105% innate intelligence
Right.
by eating a carrot. Even the only thing that can change is the matter,
Right.
and
Right.
it's still 100% innate intelligence.
Yes.
You don't have more innate intelligence by eating a carrot. You just have more matter, and I guess if you eat carrots, if you eat a chocolate donut, then you still have 100% innate intelligence. You may have an extra pound
Yeah.
or
But it tastes
or
so much better.
yeah, yeah. I prefer,
I much prefer the donut over the carrot.
yeah, but the matter may change, but and some people will say you're better off eating a carrot than you are.
I suppose, but
Yeah.
still doesn't make it any better. Tastes any better.
Yeah, it just puts on a pound,
Yeah.
and we're with the carrot. You don't put on as much
Right.
weight. Uh,
Now I want to I'm always using your book right here, your commentary on the green book, on the Stevenson's textbook here. And
Okay.
I'll read what you wrote in here, and then have you expand more on this, because this is really important here. So your commentary simply says, this is an important statement in reference to Principle 23. It truly puts the innate intelligence of the body in its proper perspective. It is not a God, a lowercase g. It is not a God in man. It does not rule the universe. It merely creates adaptive forces to be used in and for the body. I'm not trying to minimize the importance of that function. It is vitally important. It is a vitally important function, but that is its only function. Well said.
Yeah, I think we can, I have had people talk to me and say, well, innate intelligence, help me find a parking spot,
Right.
or help me do something. No, that's your educated intelligence that enabled you to do that.
Right.
It's not your innate intelligence. That's not the function of innate intelligence. Now, there may be some other supernatural means by which you found a parking spot. You may think that God directed you to this parking spot, and
Right.
and although you may say that, well, maybe God didn't direct me to that parking spot because somebody backed into my
Right.
car and dented it up,
Right.
so God didn't do it. But so
Right.
whatever
We hear things
power.
like people talk about a mother's intuition, and they sometimes, in chiropractic circles, use innate intelligence to describe that as well. That the mom has this feeling that something's just not right with her child, and she goes there, and sure enough, something's not right. That's not innate intelligence either. Like, just same as finding the parking spot.
Right. So the
Right.
innate intelligence merely deals with the function of the body rather than any supernatural or intuitive
Mm-hmm.
means. Now, where does intuition come from? I think that intuition comes from, uh, and I'm not sure that we can really clarify this because obviously we don't have that ability to understand it that well. But I think there is a combination of the material part of the body and the intelligence part of the body.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but
But
so
whatever it is, it's not what innate intelligence is functioning.
right,
Yeah.
right, right. Innate intelligence, from a chiropractic standpoint, innate intelligence just has the purpose of adapting the material of the body and organizing it into a coordinated to function in a coordinated manner. Now, that function in a coordinated manner may have other implications and may have other uh, factors that involve
Yeah.
the material of the body, and there may be some that go out of the chiropractic philosophy uh, viewpoint,
Right.
and we may give other names to those, but and one of which is intuition,
Yeah.
or there may be certain supernatural abilities that people have or
Mm-hmm.
don't have, uh, but that they're not part of the function that we're concerned with as chiropractors. We're concerned with the ability of that body and with its innate intelligence to adapt the material to function in a coordinated manner. And that's really the difference between living matter and non-living matter, or universal matter and innate matter, is the ability to function in a coordinated means and coordinated manner for the benefit of the organism. That rabbit who eats the carrot out of the ground, that carrot was innate matter when it was in the ground, and then now it's universal matter, and then it will be is when the rabbit begins to digest it, it becomes universal matter, and then when it's assimilated by the by the body of the rabbit, is now becomes innate matter,
Right.
and it can scurry off and do whatever rabbits do.
Their only job is to survive and not be eaten. That's the main job of the rabbit. To not get eaten.
Survive and procreate.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's 23. Any
Yeah, I think it's important though that we understand that we don't increase the innate the innate intelligence doesn't increase
Right.
by any way. It's 100%. It's either 100% or it's 0%.
Right.
If it's 0%, we call it universal matter,
Yes.
and if it's 100%, it's innate matter. Now, matter can, the expression of that matter can be less than 100%, and but the matter is still 100% if it's living matter, or it's 0% if it's not living matter. We can say the expression of it changes, and it may decrease, and that's one of the things that we as chiropractors deal with. That's the only thing that we as chiropractors deal with, is the expression of that matter. The expression that may be interfered with by vertebral subluxation, and that's our objective, is to correct that interference, or remove that interference by correcting the vertebral subluxation. But so the expression of it may be more, but the intelligence is really not increased or decreased. It's either all or nothing. It's either 100% or 0%. And but it doesn't change as a result of anything that we do. The expression of it may change, and so that's our objective. That's our only objective in chiropractic, is to change, or to allow that expression to be improved or reach 100%. Can't go over 100%.
Right.
It can be 0%. It's either 100% or 0%, but the expression of it can be changed.
With that in mind, maybe we can just blend that into Principle 24, because right there we start talking about the limits of adaptation. Innate intelligence adapts forces and matter for the body as long as it can do so without breaking a universal law. And that's somewhat of what you're talking about just now. There's limitations of matter. That is not going to always be at 100%, but the innate forces, innate intelligence is always at 100%, but it can't do anything beyond what the limitations of our bodies allow it to work with. So a person who is missing a gallbladder, you can adjust them all day long, they're going to not be at 100% because they're missing an organ. Or a person that, is missing their ACL, the ligament in their knee, they're just, you can adjust them, but it's not going to allow that body to somehow magically regrow an ACL or regrow a gallbladder. There are limitations that matter that the body's innate intelligence has to work with. That's what we're getting to there a little bit, I think.
All that we can really do is to allow that ACL or that gallbladder to be expressed as much of the innate intelligence that's within that organism, to express as much of that innate intelligence as possible. And that, as far as I'm concerned, that's a pretty important thing, because you could put a new gallbladder into an individual, but unless it's able to express as much of innate intelligence as possible, that gallbladder is
Yeah.
going to be nothing more than the gallbladder
Mm-hmm.
in a cadaver, and it's not going to have any life. Now we've raised the question of um, tran transplants and what difference does that make, uh, and how do we as chiropractors get involved with that? And I ask a question of students in class, will that body work any better if you i- transplant something, and will that body work any better, and by correcting verbal subluxations? In other words, if you remove an interference in the nervous system, does that improve the function of a transplanted organism? It may or it may not, depending upon whether the body can adapt that material
Mm-hmm.
for use within that body.
Right.
It can. If you eat a carrot, your body can adapt that carrot uh, within limitations, as long as it's not breaking a universal law in
Right.
order to do that. But if you transplant a, uh, a cornea into an individual, that cornea may take that transplant may take, and may be able to function with that new cornea, and it may be able to utilize that new cornea. Certain other organs not so easily, and depending upon the ability of the body to adapt that material for use within the body, so that it can function in a coordinated manner.
Mm-hmm.
That may be depending upon limitations of the matter of the body,
Right.
whether it can do that or not.
Yeah. Well, it's such an important one, I think, for chiropractors to really grasp that one, because if you don't understand the whole idea behind objective straight chiropractic, you can get caught up in here and trying to cure everything, or to regrow hair, which obviously doesn't work, because I've been getting adjusted for a long time and I have no hair still. But you know what I mean? There's all these things that chiropractors are accused of sometimes, that all you guys think you can cure everything. And some chiropractors do put that message out there, but we have to realize, number one, that's not our role. And number two, even if it is your role, which it shouldn't be, there's simply limitations that matter. There's limitations of what the body can do. You can't adjust somebody and all of a sudden they're going to go beat Usain Bolt in a 100-meter dash. There's just, we want to give whatever potential that body has to function, let's get it up to that 100%. So if they're missing an organ, they can't get back to 100% anymore in terms of the material, the matter of the body functioning, but let's get them up to 80% if that's what their new potential ceiling is. Does that make sense?
That makes absolute sense, and I think that's something that we as chiropractors need to understand, that we have that limitation upon what we can do, but that limitation can be improved uh, uh, to the maximum of that person's body's ability
Mm-hmm.
to move it. I don't think I could even run 100-yard dash today. But if I was without any interference, I could run it a lot better, perhaps a little bit better than I could with it without interference. And I think that's what we need to understand. Where, as that great philosopher Harry Callahan used to say, a man's got to know his limitations. I forget what movie was he said that
Dirty
in,
Harry.
but
The first one,
what?
I think, isn't it? Isn't the original Dirty Harry?
Um, it was the one where the cops were becoming they were knocking off all bad guys, and they
Yeah.
thought that good, and he how
Oh,
old was in that movie?
Deadpool, maybe. Was it Deadpool?
I don't know.
I don't
Anyway,
remember. I've seen them
they
all,
were
but
they were bumping off. They were shooting and killing bad guys, and
yeah,
uh,
I
they were
think it
just
was. I think it was the
taking a bunch
Deadpool.
of. Okay, well, whatever it was, but anyway, yeah, a man's got to know his limitations,
Yes.
and I think that, and I think that, and I think that's the message that should be one of the 34th principle I got
There
for
you go.
chiropractic. A man's got to know his limitations. You know, we don't create new tissue. We don't create new bodies. We just allow that body to reach the potential, whatever that potential is now for that individual. We allow an individual to reach the fullest potential that they possibly can. And I think that's our role as chiropractors. And if we understand that, understand what our role is and what our limitations are, then uh, I think we're better off
Yeah,
as a profession and as individual chiropractors.
and
And
helping people, because it goes back to something you said a long time ago in one of our earlier discussions. In terms of what do you want a person to know on that first visit, and you said you want them to understand that their body is self-healing, that their body is doing the healing. I'm not healing anybody, you're not healing anybody, we're not capable of that, we don't have those powers outside of divine intervention. The only thing that heals you or I is our bodies, and that's what we're again kind of tying that into here. We want to realize that, you know, their body does the healing. I don't have a magical adjustment to all of a sudden regrow gallbladders or, you know, anything like that. We can just, hey, what's there? Let's let your body function and be able to heal itself and run at its full potential. And so I think what you're saying there ties back into that concept too, that we want people to understand that we're not healing them, their bodies are healing it, and there are limitations to what your body can do. But let's just, whatever those limitations are, let's, you know, get things at their best.
right, right. I'm never going to be painting the Sistine Chapel because I don't have the artistic skills to do that like Michelangelo had. But I can do the best. I can do the best I can,
Mm-hmm.
and and I think that's what we need to understand as chiropractors. We don't create tissue. We don't create body. We just allow the body to work as well as it possibly can,
Yeah.
and remove any interference to that, and that, you know, I kind of look at what we do as chiropractors as being such an important thing because we're the only people who do that.
Yeah.
No doctor by any surgery, even though surgery may be necessary to keep that person alive,
Mm-hmm.
that surgery is not creating new tissue.
Right.
Um,
Right.
the body may create some new tissue uh, after that surgery has been done, and that's when a doctor takes the credit for healing an individual. But
Right.
it's really the living body that
Yep.
has done the healing, and he has just been a factor or an instrument in allowing that to occur by his surgical procedure, uh, or whatever procedure therapeutic procedure he uses. But he's not healing that person. That healing is being done by the innate intelligence of the body, and he's just taking the credit for it. I think there was a Reg used to tell the story of an old Ben Casey. You'd probably Ben Casey probably was before
I've
your
never
time.
seen it, but I've heard of him. Yes.
But yes, but I think the actor played the part was Vince Edwards, and and he said, "Well, you know, we've done all we can do."
Right.
You know, then he kind of gazed up the head, and he's just it's beyond our control now. In other words, what he's saying is
Now it's in
there
God's
may
hands.
be certain laws of physical material natural laws that come into play now. Whether this person can heal itself or not, that's out of our hands. And you kind of look skyward as if to say that it's out of our natural abilities into it. And that's why I think that we emphasize the fact that chiropractic is the philosophy, science, and art of things natural. It's not supernatural. It's things natural, and there are certain natural laws that prevent us from accomplishing things, and there are certain natural laws that enable us to do certain things as far as chiropractic is concerned. And we have to know what our limitations are and then stay within those limitations. We don't make individuals who don't have the natural ability to accomplish athletic feats. They don't have the natural ability to do that. We don't enable them to do that. We'll enable them to reach the potential that they have, but that potential has a lot of other factors that come into play, and we as chiropractors aren't involved with many of those factors, save removing interference in the nerve system. That may make the difference between what two people can do, but that's where our ability begins and ends in chiropractic, is removing that interference.
Yep, exactly. Beautiful. Well, I think that's a good place to pause for the day. We got through Principle 23 and 24 and got some good insight there. Principle 25 next time, that's going to be a big one. We'll have to spend more time there for sure. But I think that's great. So I think you need to make sure you watch the Phillies today and root them on to victory. So we'll talk again in a couple of weeks, and we'll pick up on principle number 25.
Okay, good.